Christ consciousness, artificial intelligence, archons. What do these all have in their relation, right? So recently, not even recently, years years ago and recently, I would have come across this book called Dreaming While Awake. And the book would have mentioned the whole thing about our reality being a dream basically, where our energy, our consciousness, our perceived reality was created by a consensus reality of a collective whole. But our reality, our immediate reality, was also or is also the projection or the manifestation or materialization of our subconscious mind. And so, with this came the, just like I would have mentioned in some of my other videos about the energy being certain traumas, certain belief systems, core beliefs, core programs that are running within our body are actually creating the reality around us, right? Whether we experience perceived good or perceived bad. And then the whole thing about the archonic energy or the false matrix that overlaid over the crystalline matrix or crystalline consciousness. Some may call it artificial intelligence and may see it as an artificial construct, right? And in some ways you can call it that, but I think it's more than just that. Yes, AI is mimicking our consciousness, but it's what we basically at least from the standard AI that most people use, like Chat GPT and Grok and all those, right? To some degree, they are mimicking what it learned from us, right? So it would only be really, to a certain degree, limited by our own limitations. And so, from the moment we step outside of the mimic code, because we too as humans to a certain degree have been programmed by society to behave a certain way, to think a certain way, to be a certain way. Yeah, school basically looks for those individuals who think a particular way. They reward them. So you learn something in class. If you're able to mimic it, copy it, right? Understand what it is and regurgitate it in an exam, you get high marks. And it almost feels like they punish the student that is able to question things a lot more, that thinks maybe more critically, right? They usually see them as a problem child. They might say, Timothy, you go outside, you asking too many questions, you being a problem. And yeah, it just, all of it just made me realize how, yeah, the construct that is the false matrix would have, again, trained most of our minds. A lot of people, it's difficult to really like you know get go through it without going through a bit of that programming. Yeah. So right now, what's happening with the energy that's coming into it, I see it as it's basically like tearing off or ripping off the layers of programming, the layers of mimic code that would have been laced within all of our energy fields, right? Deep programs. Some of them are surface level, so you might be able to identify them. You might be able to pick them up, right? And spot them and clear them easily. And in other instances, we have to go really, really deep in. An example would be, let's say, a program or an experience where a child feels that they need to, in order to garner the attention of their parents, they have to behave a particular way, a certain way to receive love. And so, from that very instant, they never really truly express their authentic selves. Or another situation, a person may feel that they may be too much, right? They themselves, the way they express things, the way they are, might be, they might, may have had an experience where somebody they couldn't really handle them or deal with them, especially maybe again, children, in childhood. And it may come out in that particular way, right? Parents says that you're too much. You're too much right now. Less noise. And and the child may create a belief that, I'm too much. I'm, not to express in this way anymore. And so they maybe learn a different way of expressing, and, maybe they lose their authentic way of expressing. And so I find now that all this energy is coming in, is pushing us to now uncover the layers of ourselves truly, and really learn to truly be who we are under all of the projections and the programs and the trauma and all of it, and stepping outside of the mimic code. And for those who may be afraid of AI taking over, and it feels like they're encroaching on the reality right now and stuff like that, that's one of the ways we actually shift out of it. Because from the time we start expressing our true authentic energy, we would be parsecs away from whatever AI is trying to it's gonna be a struggle for it to catch up. But if we're still living in the mimic code, it's gonna beat us at that for sure. Yep. So I can see how, right now, the crystalline consciousness, the energy that's coming from within us, that is playing out in the sun, sending off solar flares and all that, it is activating our remembrance of the spark within us. The Christ returns. It comes through the sky, through the clouds, the sun, God's Son, light of the world. And what did it say in the Bible? What was it? And the dead in Christ shall rise. So I just wanted to share that. It has been a theme that has been coming up for myself and for others. And going into the rest of this month and into next month, especially as we go into Leo season, that fire is going to turn up. You know, whether it's the internal heat, the internal flame, plasma light, or the external, where it would manifest as intense heat waves and all of that, you know. But again, the fundamentals of it, the internal reality, governs the external effect. The internal state is the cause. The external is the effect. We can't change the external. We can't change the effect. We have to change the cause. When we change the internal cause, the external effect changes. Yeah, so yes. So I'm here with you, learning. It's a constant shift, you know, and it requires us to lean in more and more. It isn't easy work, but it has its rewards. So yeah, I wanted to share that.